Welcome to this explainer. So today we're going to dive into a rather frustrating but absolutely fundamental paradox in operational resilience. You know the story, right? After a major disruption, we often hear the exact same thing. The IT teams worked literally around the clock, the servers were successfully restored, the backups were all deployed, and yet the business itself, it was still completely stopped. Value simply wasn't being generated. Now, why does that happen? Well, it happens because protecting your IT infrastructure does not automatically mean you're protecting your business. Let's really unpack this paradox today and shift our perspective toward what actually creates value under severe constraint.
Here's our roadmap. We'll start by looking at a very common mistake we see in traditional planning. Figure out where organizational value actually lives. Explore the power of business transformation. See what a crisis reveals about our operations. And finally, look at how to align all those organizational silos. All right, Chapter 1, the common mistake, and why we need to move beyond just servers and applications. In so many continuity and recovery programs, the conversation immediately kicks off with infrastructure. Executives, practitioners, we all tend to ask which applications are critical, or which servers have to come back first, or how is our cloud architecture protected? And don't get me wrong, those are absolutely valid questions. But focusing on them exclusively, that creates a massive operational blind spot. We really need to shift our focus over to the business object, because at the end of the day, systems and infrastructure are just enablers. They aren't the actual end goal of your organization. Think about this quote for a second. They assume that value is carried by systems. In reality, systems do not create value directly. They enable other things to happen. That is such a profound realization for any executive or board member. When we design our resilience purely around systems, we're basically just protecting the tools, not the actual value those tools are meant to build. So that brings us to Chapter 2, where value actually exists. If systems are just the enablers, what are the true carriers of value? Let's make this tangible with some everyday examples. We're talking about a customer order, a legal contract, a financial payment, a client's medical record, or a manufacturing work order. Every single one of these things shares one absolutely crucial trait. They are the tangible, real-world elements that hold your organization's operational value. We call these elements business objects. By definition, a business object is an operational element that carries a piece of your organization's value. But here's the really important part. It evolves. It changes state. It progresses over time. A business object isn't just some static file sitting on a hard drive somewhere, it's completely dynamic. And its movement through your organization is quite literally what drives your business forward. Which leads us perfectly into Chapter 3, the power of transformation, and how that value is actually generated. Let's trace the life cycle of a business object across these 4 steps. Take a customer order, for example. When that order is first created, sure, it holds some potential value, but it doesn't hold its true realized value until it gets validated, then transformed or fulfilled, and ultimately completed and shipped. It's the exact same story for a contract before and after it gets signed, or a payment before and after it actually clears the bank. Value isn't static. It's generated entirely through this continuous progression and transformation. And this brings us right back to the role of IT. Applications, data, infrastructure, they're absolutely vital, for sure, but they merely support this transformation. The transformation itself is the central element. Think about it. If your servers are humming along perfectly, but a critical customer order somehow can't progress from validated to transformed, well, your business is effectively paralyzed, right? Let's look at Chapter 4, the crisis revealer. What happens when the invisible suddenly becomes visible? Under normal, everyday conditions, the flow of these business objects is pretty much invisible to us. The processes just run in the background. But then, a severe disruption hits. In a crisis, it's not just a bad event. It acts as a powerful intellectual revealer. It violently strips away all the everyday noise and forces this immediate, high-stakes executive dilemma onto the table. What exactly should be restored first? In the absolute heat of a crisis, critical dependencies that were completely invisible the day before suddenly emerge. And what the crisis reveals is that an organization's real priorities are rarely the systems they assumed were critical. Their true, absolute priorities are whatever allows those stalled business objects to just continue progressing. Because restoring a server literally means nothing if it doesn't unblock the flow of your most valuable business objects. And that profound realization takes us to our final chapter, aligning organizational silos around a common foundation for resilience. Now, this really illustrates the power of this whole paradigm shift. Historically, these disciplines operate in total silos. You've got the business impact analysis team looking for what carries value. The business continuity planners are over there trying to maintain human and logistical activities. Disaster recovery is focused purely on restoring the tech, and executive governance, they're just trying to prioritize strategic decisions. But by focusing on the business object, you create a unified, common language. The business object perfectly aligns all of these disparate departments around one single, coherent, operational objective. So we have to evolve our thinking. The old questions of operational resilience used to be, which server should we restore? Or which application must we protect? The new, operationally relevant question simply has to be, which business object must continue progressing? Asking this new question completely changes how you design, govern, and execute your entire operational resilience strategy. To summarize this shift, let's leave you with this thought. Organizations do not create value with servers. The objective is the transformation of business objects that carry value. Your backups, your cloud architecture, your applications, yes, they're essential, but they are not the objective. This entire perspective, by the way, is the foundational core of the Ransom-Kick Resilience Model. By centering your strategy on the business object, this model helps you clearly understand exactly what has to be protected, what executive governance must prioritize during a crisis, and what truly enables your operations to keep functioning and keep generating value, even under severe constraint. If you're ready to move your organization from basic visibility to true coherence and anti-fragility, you need a structured environment to actually map these dependencies. I highly encourage you to explore these educational resources. Visit ransomkick.com to dive deeper into the methodology. Explore arcanus.app, which is a fantastic structuring and visualization environment to map out these business flows and maintain coherence. And be sure to check out the Archeon Group YouTube channel for more strategic insights. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I'll leave you with one final provocative question to think about today. If your servers went down tomorrow, do you actually know which business objects carry your organization's true value?